I guess I'd like to start by making a couple of observations, especially if we're at a press club. The press likes to get to simple things. There's always the villain and the hero, the good guy and the bad guy, the winner and the loser. I wish this was a simple story. We spent 10 years building an iBot for, I think, all the right reasons, to help any disabled person anywhere in the world, certainly anywhere in America that could use it. We didn't start out fixating on veterans in particular. We certainly knew it could help them. But the story, as you've heard, is complex. The one thing I can assure you is, at least so far, I haven't found in this story any villain. I mean, it's a sad story if they go away, but it's not because there's a villain. I mean, we've worked hard to make it, that the highest quality and the best technology. J&J spent 10 years going through all the clinicals, supporting all of our work, putting them out there, working with CMS, working with the agencies that reimburse. Certainly the Veterans Administration, that's been able to get them for people. They've been probably first in line, raising their hand, saying, we want these for our kids. And the Veterans Administration and Walter Reed are happy to get these things. And when you look at the cost of the alternatives or the cost of other technologies, nobody's ever blinked an eye there. So there's no villains. There may be losers, but sadly there are also no winners if this goes away. Nobody's, I think, got some evil intent. That makes the story maybe even sadder, that there may be some huge opportunities for losers, and there's no winner. Sometimes bad policy just happens. I think technology in many cases has gotten way ahead of policy. Technology moves very much faster than sometimes people's ability to understand it, appreciate it, properly deploy it. Maybe that's what we get for always being on the cutting edge of technology. When I started my medical products company in my father's basement out on Long Island, my older brother was an MD, PhD student treating kids with leukemia, so I was building equipment for him to treat little babies. When they started putting them on adults, saying it's so small you can walk around with it, they were giving chemotherapy and eventually insulin to adults, but the medical system didn't have a way to deal with that either, and it took us a couple of years to develop the first insulin pumps. It took about 20 years before most of the insurance companies started paying for them. The medical information was way ahead. The engineering technology was way ahead of policy, and maybe we're still in that mode. Before I make a couple of observations about what we might do about it, again, since I was asked to come talk about other things we're doing for these kids, and again, if in any way to prove that there really are a lot of people doing the right things, I'm going to tell you about a slightly different piece of technology that we did show some kids at Walter Reed this morning. A couple of years ago, I was visited by the guy literally that runs DARPA, the Advanced Development Group, the people that brought us things like GPS and the internet. These guys are the front-end real leaders and investors in technology. Anyway, they came to see us in New Hampshire and said, look, the good news is technology has put us in a position where we can bring everybody back. If they're not so disastrously wounded virtually instantly by an IED, or we get out there, we pick them up, we get them back, we get them to triage, we get them to surgery, as you were, out of Baghdad into Germany in less than a day. They were very proud of the fact that we take such good care of these soldiers that they said, Dean, if somebody's hurt in any remote place, Baghdad, Fallujah, they are getting world-class care faster than you'd get it if you were hurt in a car accident in any major city in the United States. That's impressive technology, and that's impressive commitment. But they went on to say, we bring them back, we keep them alive. But that's why, ironically, we have more kids now than ever. They used to die. We have more kids now, missing legs, missing arms. So they're sitting there in New Hampshire saying, we know you do medical stuff. We know you made iBots. This guy says to me, I've got hundreds of kids that have no arms. And at the end of the Civil War, we used to give them a wooden stick with a hook on it Now we give them a plastic tube with a hook on it. It's unacceptable. So you guys are going to give us an arm. It's going to fit inside a 50th percentile female frame, and it'll weigh less than a 50th percentile female arm, which is 8.9 pounds. It's going to be completely self-contained. It's going to have everything inside. And when we put this arm on these kids, they're going to be able to reach onto this table. He was sitting in my conference room. They're going to be able to pick up a raisin or a grape off this table. They're going to be able to tell the difference without looking at it. To those of you who don't, now he wants, besides the world's best articulated robotic arm, let's have efferent and afferent signals, haptic response, sensory. And he says if it's the grape, they're not going to break it. They have to have pressure. If it's the raisin, they're not going to drop it, fine motor control. And they're going to be able to pick it up and eat it. Like, let's abduct and flex at the shoulder, which nobody's ever done. Rotate at the elbow, at the wrist, at the hand. I looked at him and said, you're nuts. You're watching too much Terminator. He then tells me, Dean, about 24 of the kids that have come back already aren't missing an arm. They're bilateral. They're missing 2. I have to tell you, that night I literally was thinking, wow, I can't imagine losing an arm. I can't imagine losing an arm. But compared to losing 2, losing an arm seems like an inconvenience. And I was having trouble sleeping. So over the next couple of weeks, I decided to take a field trip to all the major medical universities that are doing neurobiology, figure out what's really out there. I came down to Washington. I visited these guys and said, I've thought a lot about your problem. I'm going to put a team together. We still think you're nuts, but not as nuts as we thought. We're going to try to do this. And almost a year to the day, I wish I had a video screen to show you this, but almost a year to the day, we had an arm. It's got a lot of unobtainium in it and expensium in it. It's got a lot of rare, it's carbon, it's titanium, it's got lithium batteries tucked around. But we built an arm, and we put it on a guy, and I could show you a video of him after 10 hours of training, reaching out, plucking a grape, big red grape off a stem. He didn't break it, didn't drop it, rotated up and ate it. And he has no arms. And obviously DARPA was pleased. We were very proud of it. And we're continuing to work. We put a few on some kids in the last couple of weeks in some clinical trials, and we're moving to the next phase. And again, DARPA is not constrained by money or channel or courage or vision. So there's no bad guys here. We're doing this.